I had a subscriber leave me a nice comment the other night, and I want to call him out, but I don't want to put his business out there, so we'll just call him MW. And he left me a good comment. He liked the videos. He likes the T minus countdown videos I was doing. First thing I gotta say is, I am so sorry. You're going to go back and watch all that stuff. Whew, I ain't gonna say they were good. I'm pretty sure I was holding back because I was working at the time, and then my wife was working until here recently, and I didn't want to blow up her spot either. So I held back a lot, and I wasn't really advertising this to friends or family. It was just kind of, if you found it type of thing. And he said he was going to go back and watch all the other videos. And then I had another customer. Everybody's my customer. If you're a subscriber, you're a customer, I guess. But he said that he was going to go and watch all the other videos, and that kind of made me feel really, really good. You know, 2 comments in a 24-hour period where people say they found me and they were going to go check out my other videos. I can't say that they're good. I ain't gonna, you know, I know they ain't good. I don't even like the ones I'm doing now, you know, right? But they are what they are, and hopefully, you know, you can get something out of it. I hope people get something out of it. They might be long-winded, but you know, I'm trying to tell a story, trying to learn how to do videos and stuff like that. They are what they are. But I figure, you know what? Let's go through and do a cliff note. If I was going to retire, if I wanted to give some advice to somebody that was going to retire, how would I tell them to, you know, what advice would I give them? And I kind of took things as an approach. For me, I bought a big fat notebook, you know, one of those big notebooks that had like 400 pages. And I was going to put everything down. I wasn't going to put it on the computer, wasn't going to do anything. I was going to write it down, handwriting, line by line. I was going to put everything that I was doing, research and thoughts and everything I needed to know about retirement. And one of the things I started off, you know, I had a process, but I would tell you to start with the financials. I think your financials are important, as well as psychological and research. It's only 3 parts, really. The psychological, the finance stuff is trying to figure out where you are money-wise. The psychological, are you really ready to retire? And then the research goes, basically, you're doing everything to prepare yourself for the big day. And when I talk about financials and stuff, for me, I had to go back 3 years worth of bank statements. And originally I was just saying, hey, go back 14 months, you know. But you might need to go 3 years or more, because I had a subscription that renewed every 3 years. And that was like $1,000 every 3 years. And I was using it for education, for work, and I don't need it, right? When I retired, I'm sorry, I canceled it. But that would have snuck up on me if I didn't catch it. And I you know, when I went back, I'm like, oh, I don't need that, you know. So going back like 3 years is really good. Just pull all your statements from everything. Your credit card, you know, if you use your credit card, pull 3 years of credit cards. I love our hummingbirds. Your bank statements, go through everything line by line. And if you can put it into an Excel spreadsheet, that is the way to go. I put it in an Excel spreadsheet, and then I could filter everything by keywords and filters and stuff. And that worked a lot faster for me. So I would put all my bank statements in there for 3 years. You know, from every account that I use, and then I would put my credit card stuff in there if I was using a credit card as well. So I have it all in one spot, so I knew the date, who it was going to, the amounts, and I could figure out, and I would highlight, hey, okay, this is kind of recurring. If I see something more than once or on a regular basis, month to month, like, okay. So they kind of help identify some of the subscriptions and things that I was buying on a regular basis, or how much I was spending on it. So it was definitely worth it. And then, you know, I added some extra things to see exactly how much I've spent on it from that time period I pulled. So like, hey, well, you spent $319 on this over 2 months or something like that. You know, you can tweak Excel the way you want, or just write it down by hand and paper. So by doing that, you're going to find out what's actually leaving your house, whether it's for the good or the bad, or you're just bad with money. You know, so what's recurring? You can see things that, you know, like your power bill and mortgage. You can see that constantly, monthly. You want to write down these things. So anything that's a subscription you have, write it down. Boom. You don't have to really focus so much, you know, putting it in a budget or anything. Right now, we're just doing everything to try to identify monthly subscription. Boom. These are all the subscriptions, how much they are, how often they are, what bills they are, what debt you have, credit cards 1, 2, 3, and 20. You know, do you have loans? So you want to identify everything. What is the payment, how often that payment is, and when it's due, and any other notes you want to throw in there. So by doing that, you can build your budget. So if you don't have a budget, you need to have a budget. And if you have a budget, you better be sticking with it and being, you know, sticking with it and then tweaking as needed. You know, the goal is to live below your means. And if you know anything about the FIRE movement, they teach you to try to live below your means, save for your future so that you can retire early, or be financially independent. Because when you have that FU money, the power is in your control. You have the say. You're not powerless. You're not forced to work in a place that you don't want to work. You're not forced to do things that you don't want to do. You can say no and not feel guilty about it. The other things I would talk about in the financial space is to maximize all your retirement contributions, your 401k, IRAs, your backdoor Roths, HSAs, employee stock purchase plans. Maximize that stuff. Just maximize it, and I know not everybody can do that, but try to put as much money as you can into it. You don't know how long you're going to be working there. They might fire you. There's no loyalty to a company because the company ain't going to be loyal to you. They can tell you that day that you're fired for no reason. But they want you to give them at least 2 weeks notice. The stacks are everything's stacked against you is what I'm trying to say. So you can learn to cut corners when you have your budget and you're maximizing everything and try to cut down costs. I'm like, do you need the latest and greatest phone? No. Do you need this, or do go to the grocery store? I only buy the finest of cans of Spam, or can you just downgrade to treat or potted meat? So you kind of learn, okay, where can I cut costs and try to save a little bit extra money, and that's kind of the whole purpose of living below your means. But I'm not trying to say, hey, eat Spam and ramen noodles every day or anything like that. Just kind of learn to cut costs and figure out what makes you happy. That there's gonna be things that are not negotiable, and if that's the car, not negotiable, that's what makes you happy. You have a car, or a certain type of car, or whatever, or a subscription. Like I have music, that's my not negotiable. I want a subscription to music because I enjoy listening to music. That's what I enjoy. My wife has her non-negotiable. You might find over time, like, all right, I could do without it, but it's trying to get your finances in order. And once you see where it's at, and you can where you cut corners or try to save money, you can put more money aside. So by maximizing in saving, another area I would say, hey, put money into like a high savings account, money market fund. Put money into an investment account, like a taxable investment account, and just start buying stuff. Or even if you plow it in there, for now, and then buy on a big red day, buy something that you enjoy and you like. There's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of things that make money every week, month, or quarter that could help grow your compound your wealth even faster. So do the research, figure out where you stand money wise and what's going in and what's going out. Your ratio. It might be tight for a few years, but if you're saving and you're doing everything you need to do because your future is important, you're doing the right thing. And I do know, people say, well, you never know when your ticket's up. Well, that's true, but again, you don't know when your ticket's up. You might live to be 150, 50, you don't know how much time you have left. So you do or you don't. The people that want to live their life the fullest now, and I'm not worried about racking up debt and all this stuff. I'm going to have fun now because you never know if I'm going to die tomorrow. But what happens if you don't? And now you're always in debt. Now you're working at a job the rest of your life, and then you have these unexpected consequences like bad health and stuff like that. That's going to ruin your day, and you're going to be wishing, I wish I would have saved. So there is caveats to that mindset. You just have to figure out what your mindset is. And hopefully if you're watching this, your mindset is, I want to retire quick if I'm not retired already, and figure that stuff out. So the next thing I would put, once I have all that stuff in my notebook, and figure out where everything's coming and going, and what I got and what I owe and all that, I go into like psychological stuff. Like I ask myself questions. What do I want to retire to? You need to know what you're going to retire to. I just going to retire. No, what are you going to be doing when you retire? What is it that you want to do? Oh, well, I want to do woodworking. I want to travel. I want to spend time with my family. I want to do some whittling and wood carving, and I want to build projects. There's things that you're going to transition your life from working into, whether that's volunteering at the homeless shelter, cooking, at a soup kitchen. Those are things that you're going to transition into, and that's the stuff that you got to figure out. What is it that you want to do? And you don't have to do it. You just make your list. At least, the whole psychological area is just list. What is it that you're inspired to do? What you would like to do? What are you going to retire into? What is it why do you want to retire? Ask yourself these questions. And there's all kinds of questions. I'm not saying I have all the questions, but for me, why do I want to retire? What am I retiring to? What am I retiring from? Why do I want to retire? What makes me want to retire? What is it that, what are the pros and cons to me retiring now or waiting 5 years from now? I ask all these different questions, and there's, you can put all the questions you want in there to try to figure it out. And I have other videos that I went through the questions I asked myself. And it's just kind of getting your mindset. So a lot of this stuff is not bucket list. Now you can ask yourself, hey, I want a bucket list. So then you can write your bucket list that you want to accomplish. But you got to figure out the mind space, your head space. Is it mentally right for you to retire now? And that's why the psychological question is, what do you want to retire into, and what do you want to retire from? What are you looking to find in retirement? What are you trying to gain or lose in retirement? And gain would be freedom and family, more time with my family. I want to travel more. What do I want to lose? The freaking 18-hour job, being on call 24 hours a day, the endless flying. Yeah, I wanted to get rid of that stuff. So, it's just ask your questions and then just make your list. And I did everything on one page, and I'd ask a question and then I would have bullets. It might be a page or two long, depending on what it was. And then the third section is the research, and the research is where it's going to take time. And mine took a while. I don't know how long. I say a year or 2 years. It depends. I think I was planning it I was planning it before COVID, but I think I really got aggressive with my retirement planning in 2023. And the research part is what you need to do is the research part. You need to go through everything. So go through your IRA, your 401k, download the documentation for it, read every line, understand what the rules are for every retirement plan that you got. Go to your HR, go find all the retirement stuff. Does your 401k have a 55 and 15 rule? Understand what the 15 and 55 rule is. I messed up. I thought when you turned 55 and had 15 years with the company, you can collect from that 401k at any point. No, it's not the case. 15 to 55 just means when you have 15 years with the company and you turn 55 in that same year and you leave the company in the same calendar year as you turn 15 years and 55, you can take money from your 401k that year, that calendar year. Other than that, everything else is going to be penalized. So you want to go through everything and understand your IRAs, your 401ks, your HSAs. You want to go through every account, your TSPs, your whatever, your bonds, your bank account. Understand what the restrictions are. What are the rules? The do's and the don'ts. Because that could come out and bite you in the butt. And I think my number one video is, hey, I made a mistake with the 15 to 55 rule. It was kind of long-winded, and basically just coming in short. I read it wrong, and when I went to ask HR and get clarification, they still beat around the bush and weren't clear, being honest, what that really meant, and nobody really explained that good enough. And I thought I understood when I repeated it back to him, so I think it's just a kind of a way to kind of screw you. If you don't take it, they win, or I don't know. I don't know how they would benefit from it, but they weren't really clear about it. But try to do as much research as you can, and then on top of that, dig into like some funds. If you're young like me, Gen Xer, who's not 60, I'm 53 right now. I got some time before I can collect anything in my retirement fund. So my retirement funds right now are just compounding their interest and money and whatever, just letting them go right now. But I have to rely on a taxable investment account. That's my money that's got to last 6-7 years or longer, and I have to figure out how to make that. And I'm not going to say I have a lot of money in there, because I don't think I have a lot of money in there, but it's helping to pay the bills, and I'm trying to do what I can to make it compound the best I can. But that's kind of what we got, So having, putting your money in there while you're getting ready to retire, and you can find there's a lot of ETFs that give good money, and you just let it auto drip and just let it go. You just keep adding to it every payday or something like that. That will build up your taxable account, and then you might find out, in 2 or 3 years, maybe 5 years, when you're ready to retire, you can look at that like, oh, I can retire because, hey, I'm making this much dividends every month or week or quarter. I can live on that, and take an account for taxes now. But compounding works. It really does work, and you just have to let it do its thing until you're ready. And if you ever get in a bind, you could stop the auto drip, collect the money when it's really, really high. That way your DCA is lower than when it's going high. Or if you don't care, just let it go. But if you need the money to pay a bill or something because something came up, you can stop the auto drip, take the money for however 1 or 2 pay periods, and then turn it back on when you need to. But there's options with it. So my money that I have invested in my taxable account is what helps pay my bills per se. I'm trying to let it auto drip, but right now I will say with us downsizing, and we have a lot of moving parts right now because we're making a lot of things happen. And the house is going to be the biggest thing left, which is going to go on the market here in a few days, actually a few days. And hopefully it'll sell quick, and we'll be out of here by September. And that will be the biggest headache I think we have. And then I think we wait for about a month and a half, and then the real adventure is going to begin. So yeah, there's some exciting things coming down the pipe. We just got to figure it out and try to get everything going. But a lot of that stuff wouldn't happen or couldn't happen if I didn't have my investments in place. And yeah, I messed up a lot of things, and I made some great moves. So there is good and takes, but best thing you do is find a fund that you like and that is really good, and just compound into it. Find another one, do the same thing. You won't regret it. You shouldn't regret it, depending on what you put your money in. I'm not giving financial advice or anything. I'm just saying, find a fund that you like, stick with it, or funds you like. No, you don't do that. I know you're not feeling good. He's got a bad tummy. Stick with some funds that you like, and then just put as much money as you can in there every payday. It works. But that's kind of quick, my quick Cliff Note version of that. And people that are new, trying to figure out how can they retire, or if you are retired, and it's just kind of the process I went through. For the most part, I spent a lot of time on it, like every night for more than a year. Every night I had that book with me. Matter of fact, when I traveled to customer sites, wherever I went, for the most part, I had my retirement notebook with me, and I spent a lot of time in that notebook trying to figure out funds I was going to use, to trying to figure out math, like my stock, when my stock employee, and I mapped out when I got my employee stock purchase plan and my stock awards and my merits and other bonuses. I knew I had all that stuff mapped out, and I could figure out what was the best time for me to retire, because I knew when everything was coming to me. I knew vacation. I had everything mapped out, and I don't regret it one bit. It helped me make the best timing for my retirement. I think for me, there's always going to be something, but you can't control everything, but you can control everything. And by investing now in yourself, if you're not retired, everybody that's retired should agree and give me a thumbs up if you do, and if you don't agree, give me a comment why you don't. But if you planned, if you're planning now, you're going to be a lot better off than somebody that's just retired and didn't do any planning, or forced to retire because the company says, we don't need you anymore, and then you become unhireable because every other company's doing the same thing. So anyways, food for thought, buttercups. Give me likes, give me subscribes, and